Meeting to order. This was added as a special meeting for our purpose of discussing a lot of various personnel items in executive session and then having open session, so that is the reason we're running late. That was the purpose of the executive session, and we will continue in executive session afterwards. As we talk about the agenda, I will announce some, once we start the meeting under the purpose, I will talk about some changes to the agenda. So if we could please stand and salute the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. As I said, this was a special meeting added, and when we get down to the vote on item in number 3, where it talks about retirements and personnel matters, under personnel matters, we are removing the athletic appointments from this evening. We're also pulling, there was a resolution on there to pull an attached resolution, and we're removing that as well. The rest of the matters on the agenda this evening will stand. One new matter that I must ask, and if everybody has it in front of them, because we're going to have to set it, is a date for a committee meeting in July. And if we stay with our Tuesdays, we'd be looking at the 10th, or I'd say the 31st. I tried to remember the dates to avoid. If we're going to, we do have one meeting already scheduled for the 10th. Does the 10th work for everybody else? We have an employment meeting that night. So if we're going to be here, we could then just continue on. That work?
When are you looking to do the executive, before or after?
It would have to be after. We'd have executive, and then we'd go into committee, and then what else we need. So we'll send out a new timetable for that. Because if employment goes 6 to 7, then maybe 7 to 7:30, 8 o'clock would be executive, and then like 8 o'clock would be the open meeting. That's the rough timetable. That work? I'm seeing shakes of heads on the left.
Good for me.
We good on the right? Thank you. I will be adding that as an additional item onto the agenda under new business, so that'll be E. Okay, committee meeting. So now, if we can begin. I don't think under other business we have personnel policy. We come down to public comment. And if there's anybody in the audience this evening that would like to address the board, I ask that you please stand, come forward, and state your name and address, and obviously the topic. Yes, and please sign in.
Is this on? Okay. Before I sign in, I came tonight planning on talking about recalling teachers from furlough. Is that something I can talk about tonight? It's apparently not on the agenda, even though I thought it was going to be.
That's fine.
Okay, let me sign in then. My name is Jackie Olimpo. Up until last Tuesday, or this past Tuesday, I was the orchestra teacher at the 5th and 6th grade building. At the end of last week, I believe it was when we found out, those of us who were told back in May that we would be recalled from furlough because of retirements, I found out that that wasn't really true. And I sent out an email to the board. But I wanted to kind of continue on something that I had said in that email, and that was this, that when we talk about furloughs, we talk about how programs are curtailed or cut back, but everybody always seems to say that it doesn't really affect the kids. And I can't speak for everybody who was told that they were going to be recalled from furlough to replace retirees, but I can talk about what I know. At the end of the school year, the schedule came out, and I was included on it for next year. Last year, Janet DeGrandis retired from her position as the 5th and 6th grade orchestra director. When she retired, she had 31 lesson groups. Lesson groups are when the kids come during different periods during the week and they have a lesson on their instrument. I was hired to replace Janet DeGrandis as a part-time position. To kind of make up for me being part-time, one of the other music teachers took on 10 of my lesson groups. Because of furloughs this year, he no longer has, it was 2 lesson groups a day. He no longer has those 2 lesson groups because he's now covering study hall over in the 7-8 building because there are no longer enough teachers to cover study hall. And which brings my schedule, tentative schedule, down to 16 lesson groups, and I have right now roughly 100 and maybe 50 kids, depending on how many 5th graders choose to stick with it. It's just not possible. So the next step from there, and this is true regardless of whether I'm the part-time teacher or somebody else is the part-time teacher, doesn't matter who it is. The next step is to take a look at the 5th graders coming in and to make cuts as to who can play in the orchestra and who can't play in the orchestra. And cuts have already been made because we just don't have enough instruments for everybody. That's where the first cuts come from. But the second cut is going to have to come from where the students are in their lesson books. So, you know, whoever it is will pick a number. Right now, as I sit down and look at it, it's probably going to be page 20. I know that doesn't really mean a whole lot, but it's far enough in that they usually know what they're doing. By going to page 20, just to put everything in perspective, by going to page 20 and cutting every student who is not at page 20, now I can't say 100% positive that it is everybody, but at least 2/3 of the violin students, if not all of the violin students from Shawnee, will not be in orchestra next year because none of them got far enough in the book. That's not a reflection of their skill level or the skill level of the teacher who teaches them. It's just that they went a little bit slower and they only got to page 18. 18 is the one that sticks in my head because originally I had planned on cutting the list at 20. And I didn't want to do that because I didn't want to cut all of those students out. But when you talk about taking teachers away and taking time away from the students, that's the reality of what happens. That, yeah, the orchestra program is still there, but cutting the program in half or less than in half means that only half of the students can be in it. So in the fall, when you have, 20 or 25 really angry parents from Shawnee whose children cannot participate in the orchestra, and these are parents, by the way, who have paid for their children to rent instruments or paid to buy instruments, and there's nothing to be done. They simply don't have room for them there anymore. So when we talk about cutting positions, it's all great in theory, but in real life, the students really are affected. It's not just on paper. The second thing is, and I know I'm running out of time, I don't know if recalling people from furlough will come back up in a future meeting or not, but I don't think it's selfish of me to want an explanation as to why we were told that we would be recalled, and then 2 weeks later that was taken back. Because, we are people with lives, and I understand that mistakes happen, but my fiance and I are getting married in November, and we waited until I knew whether or not I'd have a job to buy a house. I got the okay, so I am moving to 220 Burke Street in Palmer at the end of July. So now I have a house and no job. So I don't think it's wrong of me to want an explanation for that. Thank you.
Good evening. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Bob O'Donnell. I've been printing service operator and manager for 31 years with the Eastern Area School District. And as of 3 o'clock this afternoon, I was notified that my job is being eliminated. What I'm here tonight to ask is, I was offered a retirement package, but the age, I did not have the requirement of age. I'm only 54. What I'm going to ask the board tonight is if I could be reinstate or keep my job until August 9th, which then I will retire at 55. And because I just, it just stunned me today, so I apologize for not being as clear as I should be. But after 31 years, hopefully that carries a little bit of respect. But if not, that's all I can say. Thank you.
Thank you. Would somebody else like to? Do I see another hand? I don't. Okay. Moving on with the agenda. We have a list of retirements. Can I have a motion to accept them?
Second.
And can we add with regrets for those? Thank you. Thank you. Any other comments? All those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed? We had various personnel matters listed on a separate sheet. Can I have a motion to approve the personnel matters?
President, are we?
This sheet. No, this is a sheet. Has Kathy DeSalvo at the top, Judy Steinberg on the bottom.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second? No, not yet. Carrie, that'll be coming next. Have a motion and a second? Any other comments? All those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed? We had the addendum, and I'm going to break the addendum into two pieces. The first is the abolishment of the administrative professional positions. Can I have a motion for those?
Motion.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Are there any further comments? All those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed? We had the elimination of the Act 93 positions. Can I have a motion?
So moved.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Again, any other comments?
Question, are we here?
Yes, sir.
We're here. Now, you heard some information just now that you didn't hear in the room. I mean,
You still vote appropriately. It's in your head.
let's move forward.
Well, the motion is to
Eliminate.
eliminate those positions. That's the motion
Right.
and the second.
Right, and we're going to have to vote the motion at this point.
Roll call. I'm fine there.
Okay? Joan?
No.
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 Yes. No. No.
No. Okay, thank you. Is there a second motion at this time? Or let it stand for right now? I'll let it stand. That's fine. With that, we have the approval, we have the acknowledgement of the plan cons for project financing. I think that had been sent out at one point.
Just, there's no longer required board actions except for acknowledging. Okay.
Then we have a motion.
Mr. President, I move that we acknowledge the Plan Con for project financing.
Thank you. Do we have a second? We have a motion and a second. Any further comments? All those in favor, aye.
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 Opposed? I am going to take the next, I'll take the next two together. Determination of employee 3241 and the approval of settlement agreement number 1111. Can we have a motion?
Motion.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. There's no discussion on those. All those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Final adoption of policies so that they can be put into the handbook is D. And if I can, I'll take E as well, which is setting a committee meeting or a special meeting for July 10th.
Motion.
Second.
A motion and a second. Any comments? All those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. And at this point, I will then entertain a motion for adjournment.
Motion.
Yes. Have a motion and a second. All those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed?